how do you get over that mindset? Because like sometimes people have, I like to call limiting beliefs.
People are going to judge you all the time. There's a lot of imposter syndrome out there when you were in the midst of a competition. And I would say even as a woman competing a lot against the guys in a lot of our local tournaments, but even just across Canada, like we do have a lot of tournaments where there is women only. But I would say in the competitive sense, it's helped me in photography because you just have to kind of jump the gun, if that makes sense, of like, hey, I want to start this. I just have to start it. So really just taking that step of starting it and not looking back. And so for me in 2015, as much as I was just starting my photography business, if you want to have success, you have to step over that imposter syndrome and just, I am actually reading the book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robinson right now. And that's exactly what she talks about, of just taking the leap and letting yourself be yourself and showcasing the real person who you are and being okay with that. I knew that something had to change.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Rise Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Hanny. I'm the founder of Hanny Mobile. I'm also a real estate investor as well, too. Today, I got a special guest. I have Marissa Naylor. She's the founder of Marissa Naylor Photography. She's also a marketing and communication strategist here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So, Marissa, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We've been going back and forth, so it's ready to finally make it happen.
It's been a while of like, text, or Instagram, or Hanny Lounge events. And I've been seeing a bunch of people go to those, which is super cool. And so I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Marissa, take me back to like how this all started. Like I realized you got a photography business. You're also helping out people in the entrepreneurship and marketing side. Where did this all begin for you?
Yeah, so my photography journey began in 2015. And outside of photography and everything that I do, at the heart of what I do, I'm a 10-pin bowler on Team Canada. And so for anyone who doesn't know what bowling is, it's the recreational bowling alleys that you would typically see around Manitoba or Canada. And so I've been bowling for as long as I can remember. And in 2015, I missed the Provincial team in Manitoba, which I made for 7 years straight. Until 2015, I had lost my spot. And in that moment, one of my friend photographers who was hosting the Nationals that year in Winnipeg, he came up to me and he was like, hey, do you want to help me photograph this event? And I've been like a creative person at this point a little bit in my life. I would like dabble in photography. I'm like, I suck at drawing or anything painting related. So I was like, that's not going to work. But I kind of had a funny feeling I wanted to start photography in some way. And so my friend, his name's James Carey Lauder. He's a really famous sports photographer here in Winnipeg. He does a lot of Winnipeg Jets, Manitoba Moose, all the sports photography. And so he reached out to me and he's like, hey, here's a camera, go shoot, see what you think. And I remember in like 10 seconds, I was hooked. I was like, okay, like this is the coolest thing. I was just photographing sports. So like in that month of June 2025, or 2015, sorry, it was kind of like, okay, we would just shoot for fun. Like we would just shoot sports and like bowling, football, hockey. Hockey was super cool back in the day when I was shooting. And then that summer, two of my family members were actually getting married and they were like, hey, do you want to come shoot for fun? They already had photographers booked, but I was just getting into it. And I was like, okay, like I want to get into this wedding sphere of photography. What does this look like? I want to know more about it. And in June, when my sister got married, she was like, you're just going to come shoot, have fun, take as many photos as you want, see if you like it. And I remember getting home that night and I looked at my mom and my dad and I was like, hey, I'm hooked. And so that August, that same summer, my cousin got married and she was like, again, come shoot. I was just graduating high school. So like I literally, when you graduate high school, you don't really know what you want to do. You maybe have an idea. I had somewhat of an idea, but I didn't really know photography was on the realm for me. And so at the end of August, when I shot my sister's wedding and then my cousin's wedding, I put an ad out on Kijiji, which I joked about at a conference a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, I'm just going to see if anyone bites on this lead of like a photographer. And it was just like for a random session, portrait, family, couple. Didn't really matter. I wanted to do something. And so I put out that lead on Kijiji and I had a few bites on it. And ever since then, I was hooked. I shot those 2 weddings. And then the next summer, I booked a couple like off of Kijiji, but then I started on Instagram. And I mean, when you have an Instagram account, counting, you really have just 0 followers, right? So you're trying to build that. And so today I've built that to over 5,000 followers. But really, it's just the process of actually doing that. And so I was really hooked of the feeling of what people saw themselves in front of the camera and like how they really saw themselves as a person, and just with their love or their partner or their family or their business, like literally anything. And so seeing people's faces light up like that just really brought me to do photography. And so it's still much a side hustle today, but I think it's becoming much more than that. And I think it's going to be much more now going forward in the future.
Yeah. And how did you, because you said you were doing sports as well too while trying to do your photography business.
Yeah.
What are some things you've been able to take from sports and add it into like photography, and just what's the mindset to be like an athlete and to get into photography? Because there's so much that goes into that.
For sure. I think the correlation between the two is like entrepreneurship and bowling. I actually made that kind of my joke to one of my colleagues, as I was like, they're really similar in the sense is that you have to be consistent in what you're doing. So in sports, when you're training, you have to be consistent or else you're not going to see results. And it's the same thing in photography and any business or entrepreneurship realm, is that you have to be consistent in order to get success. So for me, when I started in 2015, I had this idea of this business in my head, and I say business, but for me, it was just really a passion. It still is just a passion of mine that I just love making people feel good in front of the camera. And so when I started that and I saw that in bowling and how I can like transition that in my head of like bowling and sport to business, it was just consistency. So whether that be posting every day, consistent customer experience, making people feel good, and really like making that known of like what my brand is, what I stand for, and what my purpose is, and what I want that to look like for clients. And so for sports, that's how I try to impact the next generation of athletes, to now really with Team Canada, just showcasing that on a sports side, but then again, even on the photography side, just trying to be my best person for my clients, because that's who they're hiring.
Yeah, and photography it's such a it's a big market.
Yeah.
So when you got into it like 2015, which is a very long time, you've seen the evolution of like social media and how it's grown over the years. So for you, like when you started that business, what was like what's the difference between me going to Marissa and going to like someone else? What's the biggest difference there?
Yeah, no, I love that question actually, because I think that we forget there's so many photographers and so many videographers and just so many different people in the niche. So I think for me as a wedding photographer, the biggest thing that I pride myself in is making people feel good in front of the camera and just making sure that they know they are cared for, because there is so many people they can go to. But the thing is, if I take care of my clients and they're like the holy grail to me, I care about that one single person, regardless of how many weddings or clients I'm serving. If I can serve them to the best of my ability and know that if they need anything, have any questions, if they're concerned about something, or if they have like a family member that wants a certain photo, making sure that is my priority and nothing else, because they are the priority. When you are going into a wedding, 10, 12, 8-hour wedding, like that is only one day, but that's the biggest day of their life. So making sure they know of like, I'm there for them no matter what they need. And my whole team knows that too, is that anyone that I'm working with, they know that the client's the priority, and that if they need anything, they know who to come to. And in my whole client experience, that's what I try and focus on, is just they're the priority. What do they need? And how can I give that to them in the fastest way possible, but in the best way possible too?
Yeah. Tell me the evolution of like when you first started, like trying to get customers.
Yeah.
Like how much did you start the business with originally? Or what was the original? Because a lot of entrepreneurs think you need a lot of money to start in business.
Yeah.
What was the original cost to like start that business?
So it's kind of funny because I find that like it's so true. Like we see like a bunch of entrepreneurs like, oh, like I need $100 million to start a business, or $50,000, right? And for me, it was just a Canon Rebel T5 camera. So for the photographers out there, they probably know it's not the best camera on the market, with a kit lens, so 1855 millimeter. And before I graduated high school, my parents gave me this camera because I was going to England, Ireland, and Scotland, and just really across the European atmosphere for a graduation present. And my parents were like, take this camera, go shoot. And this was before I missed provincials and bowling and everything kind of happened, but go shoot, take pictures, and create memories. And so that was a camera I used for 3 or 4 years straight, until I really found something used, and until I found colleagues that were also in the industry that I was like, hey, can I just try your camera and see what this looks like? Because I knew nothing about the gear for 2 years of my business. From 2015 to 2016, 17, I was still just on that same lens, but I really wanted to build it back into my business to be the best it could be. So for me, it was just, I think it was like a $300 kit lens and a camera that got me started. And I think I charged $80 for my first session off Kijiji, and now we're much bigger than that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and what's like the process to getting clients? Because one of the things about people is always like, oh, I don't have enough leads. I'm trying to get customers. Like, So for you, I'm guessing you just got good at the skills of like taking photography and really taking it serious. Just like you said earlier, you're an
Yeah.
athlete. You know, when you're an athlete, there's a lot of preparation that goes
Yeah.
into to perfecting your craft. So
Yeah.
what's that process like to get customers? Because that's like, is it built off trust? Is it built off referrals? Those first couple times when you're doing it.
Yeah, I would say with wedding photography, it is all referrals, it's all experience. And because it's such a luxury high ticket item that if you go above and beyond for your clients, so in my marketing brain, that's like the basics of going above and beyond for your clients, they will refer you. They will recommend you to every single friend you have. And I was actually just on a call this morning where the bride that's getting married, she actually found me from a previous wedding, and she was in the bridesmaids part of the wedding party, and she was like, oh, like I remember having our conversation together. It was before the ceremony. We had like a 2-minute conversation about her life and how much she loves photography, and now that is connecting back to my photography and wants me to book for her wedding. So I think it's just really building relationships with people, being personable. Like that's the biggest thing with any type of photography is if you just can be personable with people and get to know their story and like be open with them and just be willing to hear them and listen to their thoughts and what they want, you'll be successful. And so for me, when I was building my business, that was the biggest thing, is just being open to what people want to tell their story, what they wanted from me, and how I can do that to the best of my ability. And so today, obviously, it's mostly Instagram and my website that drive in a lot of the leads, but that's a lot of the 10 years plus work that I've done. But I think that's also come with just being personable and really building relationships with everyone I can in the wedding industry. And the entrepreneurship community too. So I mean, the Bantua business community is huge, as we know. And so really connecting all those dots together to really bring them together to really impact my photography, but also my marketing career as well.
Yeah, I know that's well said. How do you build a story using photography? I think even on because when you're taking pictures, you're telling a story, right? So you said earlier about building trust, especially with clients. Like, how do you do that? Because there's so many, nowadays people tell you, like, to build trust, you need a story. You need something people can feel emotional, whether that's, depending on how you kind of look at it, especially we look at social media as well too, right? If you could tell a good story, like, but of course you have to go through those experiences. So for you, Marissa, tell me those early days when you were starting that business, but what stories are you trying to tell now with your clients, also too, with your business, similarly?
Yeah, I would say that my biggest thing I would say on social media and just what I tell of my story is why I do what I do and what drives me, what's my purpose, and really how I serve my clients. Because the thing with social media nowadays and just the thing with photography is people want to know when they're doing their research how you can be the best person for them, how you can serve them, how you can make them feel good, answer all their questions before they even have the questions come into their head. So for me, I share that all on Instagram. And I'm very open on Instagram. I share my marriage on Instagram and my husband and just the life we create for each other and also just the adventures we have and every aspect of my life as much as I can, because it really brings people into more than just photography, but who I am as a person, which when you're booking a wedding photographer, you really want to get to know that person behind the camera, not just what the photos are going to look like. And so for me, it's really showcasing my life, but also what drives me as a person and what my purpose is. And just what I love about photography and just why I do what I do, like I said, because it's just, that's what people really drive into is why do you do something and why should someone hire you over the 50 plus photographers in the city that could go to them.
Yeah. And how do you get over that mindset? Because like sometimes people have, I like to call limiting beliefs about depending on how they grew up and life experiences. Oh, I'm afraid to put myself on camera. Oh, I'm afraid to do this business because like someone might say this, but how did you have to get over that hump? Because it's one of those things where it's like, as I feel like as a business owner, the biggest challenge is not really so much a profit or how much you make. It's really just, it's mentally being ready to show up, like you said earlier, especially as an athlete as well too.
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of funny because I think my athletics have helped me a lot in that sense, because there's a lot of imposter syndrome out there when you were in the midst of a competition. And I would say even as a woman competing a lot against the guys in a lot of our local tournaments, but even just across Canada, like we do have a lot of tournaments where there is women only, but I would say in the competitive sense, it's helped me in photography because you just have to kind of jump the gun, if that makes sense, of like, hey, I want to start this. I just have to start it. So really just taking that step of starting it and not looking back. And so for me in 2015, when as much as I was just starting my photography business, I was about to quit 10-pin bowling for my life because I was like, you know what, I missed that provincial team and it was a really dark space. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with bowling, and I never knew really what my next step was, but I knew that something had to change. And so I actually found myself a new coach because my previous coach was retiring. And as soon as I found that new coach, my whole purpose changed of sport, but also changed my life. And so I think changing that really helped me of taking that leap of sharing my story and being okay with, hey, everyone's story is their own. And it's okay to share your story. People are going to judge you all the time. I mean, I am such a people pleaser myself, so I'm still working on that. But it's just taking that step of it's okay to share your story. It's okay to put yourself out there. And that, especially in today's world, you kind of almost have to do that if you I don't want to say want to get anywhere, but if you want to have success, you have to step over that imposter syndrome and just, I am actually reading the book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robinson right now. And that's exactly what she talks about, of just taking the leap and letting yourself be yourself and showcasing the real person who you are and being okay with that, because there's so many people out there and everyone's personality is so different that it's okay to showcase yourself and be you online and really showcase your story.
Yeah, I think you have to like stay composed as well too in the process. Sometimes we tend to look at where we are and we want to kind of predict the future, but it's like the process is a shortcut because there's no way you're gonna get there right away. But tell me this idea of because you're an athlete, well, you know, when you're in the zone, you ever got those moments where you're in the zone? Because I'm big into sports. Like I played basketball growing up. You know, I actually graduated in 2018. I actually got a scholarship to play in Ontario. So I was a Division I scout player.
Whereabouts in Ontario?
Yeah, in Fanshawe.
Okay, nice. Okay,
but I ended up dropping out because I wasn't good at academics.
I mean that's okay. That's okay.
But there's been so many moments where like I've been in the zone where I'm like just scoring, where I'm getting my teammates involved, where just things are just clicking, right? And you're in that moment, and the crowd is looking at you like, wow, this guy he's on fire right now. So tell me, like, how do you stay in the zone? Especially when it comes to like, because you say you were bowling, because it's not easy to like be so dialed in every single second, and then you got so much pressure coming in. So how do you, what's that thing? How do you maintain that, especially when you're in bowling and just depending on sports?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is kind of like throwing a free throw, if you will. Like I'm not a big basketball player, but I know that you always have a process and you always have a pre-shot routine and you always have those things that you follow religiously when you are about to do that. So for me in bowling, it is a pre-shot routine. It is the same thing over and over and over again. And that is when I execute my best shots, is when things are simple and things are just flowing. You're in a subconscious side of your brain where you are just going through the flow of things and everything's clicking. And as soon as I can get to that space and I know what that space feels like, and I'm just throwing shots and I'm seeing ball motion and seeing things in the lane that I like to see that I know I can execute. And so it's really just getting myself into that space of a pre-shot routine where I can execute shots over and over and over again. And even if it's under pressure, it's the same thing. Because especially under pressure is you don't want to rely on, oh, like, what's my body doing? I'm going to second guess this. It's like you just want to go into all the practice you've done and throw it now into competition. So I always say to my kids that I coach and that I've mentored over the years is how you practice is how you play. And I'm sure you've probably heard that around various sports quotes, but it's really putting that into practice. So of just, if I practice exactly how I want to compete, then competing won't be a problem. It's a matter of just executing that then.
Yeah, because you can have talent as well too, and you think you're going to make it, but it's like talent gets you in the door, but it's really the work that makes it sustainable. But how do you compete at the highest level? Like, what's that process? Because you competed in Team Canada, and what's that journey been like to go playing, you know what I mean, in school, and the next, like, now you're going to go, like, national and stuff. How do you, what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, so bowling for me started in 2015, like I said, where things changed, I would say. But I've been bowling since 2008. It's 2008, I made my first nationals, which I was 8 years old. Or maybe I was 10 years old. I don't even remember how old I was, but I was a young kid. And so I went to Sault Ste. Marie for my first national tournament representing Manitoba in 2008. And after going to that nationals, I was hooked of representing Manitoba. And so that's when my bowling journey really began, of competing for Manitoba for 15 years and up until 2020, which was my last year of youth. COVID hit, of course, and then the world shut down. I never really got to finish my youth career, but that's when I then realized my potential of going into Team Canada. And so I went to Team Canada in 2021 when things started to open up again, and went for my spot on the team of All Team Canada and actually made the step ladder, which came at a really big surprise just because there's so many talented women bowlers in our country that it is a privilege to be on Team Canada, but let alone competing in step ladders at team trials. So in 2021, when I competed, I made the step ladder and I made my first team. I knew that something clicked in my head that I can do this. And that was a turning point after 2015, everything I had gone through over those few years, that this was something much bigger than just Team Canada for me. So that was kind of the flick of the switch in 2021. And yeah, I've been able to travel to Peru and Kuwait and Hong Kong and a variety of different countries. And it's been a ride so far. I mean, we're not going to stop anytime soon, but I think just seeing the potential that you can have early on in your sports career, but then also having the best community around you to support you. The bowling community across Canada is very unique, that everyone knows what's going on in your life. They're they're right beside you when something happens greatly or when you're having struggles. And so I think having that community around me has also been helpful because it really shapes who you are as a person, who you are as an athlete. And so for me, from 2008 to now, it's been a whirlwind of a transformation. But 2015 and 2016 was that pivotal year of realizing a bigger purpose and realizing a why and seeing what I need to change in my game to be where I am today. And working with our Team Canada coach over the last couple of years has also been really a big change because my game's taken a whole new level that I've never really seen it take over a long time. So from bowling, that would be one side. And then from golf, I mean, in the midst of bowling, I was competing as the team captain at the University of Manitoba on the golf team there from 2015 to 2020. And even that taught me so much that bowling just couldn't teach me, because in golf, when you are in the middle of competing in a tournament, no one's around with you. You can have a caddy, but in college, you're not allowed a caddy. So in college, you're on your own and you have to score the best you can, and you have 4 teammates waiting for you at the clubhouse. And so that kind of pressure was very different than bowling. And it taught me a lot about leadership and teamwork, but also just putting your game on the line and being as prepared as you can, knowing that you have 4 people in the clubhouse depending on you and you have to do your best, and whatever that looks like that day has to be enough. So I think university golf taught me something too that bowling has never taught me. And that's just, again, leadership, teamwork, and just being willing to push yourself and being okay to cross boundaries and cross areas that you never thought you could actually do, because it's going to put you in a place that's so cool. And I think that's also shaped my business a lot today.
Yeah. Tell me that couple moments where you had to, because in sports, you're going to win. You're also going to take those losses as well too. You're going to have those wins and you're going to have those losses. Tell me, what was the biggest like obstacle that you had to overcome? Like whether it's like you had this big game and then next thing you know, you had taken this loss. Well, what were some key takeaways you had to learn from that? Because like, as you said, when you're bowling that at early and then it's like you're doing golf and, you know, what was like the biggest lesson that you had to learn from just, you know?
Oh man. I mean, I feel like for bowling and golf, it's 2 different lessons almost because they're really like 2 similar sports, but they're also 2 very different sports. So I think for bowling, the biggest thing was being okay to have self-confidence and being okay to have believe in myself. And I think that was a hurdle that I was just scared to jump over. And when I had changed coaches and made Team Canada for my first time in 2022, I really saw that belief change in my head, but also just in every way I competed and there forward. So I think that was the biggest thing, was being okay to believe in myself. And I think for golf, it's just realizing I have the talent to compete with the best in our province and then go and compete at the national level too. Because I think with both sports, just being okay to believe in yourself is okay to do, and you can do it, just proving to yourself that you can do it. And I think in bowling, when I was in 2015, 2016, I made Team Canada later on, and even till today, you just need that right community of people to push you to do that. And I think for me, when I found that community of people in Team Canada and even really here in Manitoba especially, it's really helped taking me now to the next level that I never, again, saw before. And with golf, as soon as I was named the team captain on team at University of Manitoba back at my Bison days when I was at the university, I think the biggest thing there is realizing that your coach is the best person you have and that they are going to push you again to limits you don't expect. So for golf, it's the biggest lesson I learned was just sticking to the game plan. Many times on a golf course, for any golfer out there knows, you can just spray the ball. And if you lose focus for half a second, you can be 3 shots behind before you just had a lead. And so for me, I've lost the lead many times in my career in golf, and I've definitely been upset more in golf than I probably haven't in a bowling alley, just because there's a lot more pressure I find on a golf course. But it's just realizing that you have what you have to compete at that level and being okay with that. But really just those leadership skills, which I think from a career standpoint, is really going to help me now moving forward.
Tell me, Marissa, what's like growing up in Winnipeg, how did you, because for me, like we don't see golf. We don't see like we don't see you know, golf course and stuff like that. We because I grew up in the north end of the city, so I kind of grew up, you know, just seeing like, you know, different environments, not the greatest environment. So, you know, there's so much, you know, drugs, gangs going on.
Yeah.
So I had a basketball court, so that's where I was hooping most of the time in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
But for you, how did you like? What sort of environments were you around to be able to kind of see golf, to be able to see, you know, bowling? What kind of, because I believe like your environment shapes your reality. So depending on like where you grew up, what are some things that you saw, it usually kind of reflects on that. So who was the person that like helped you, guide you when you were first starting, that kind of told you like, okay, like this is what we're going to do. We're going to focus on this, and, you know, we're going to try to make it from doing this. Like, who was that person in your life?
For me in bowling, it was my parents, because my parents bowled. I was in a bowling alley at the age of like 6 years old. So like when I saw my parents bowling and I was running around the bowling alley with the other kids, I was like, okay, this is super cool, but like I want to bowl, like I want to do this. And so seeing my parents bowl, who still bowl today, which is really just a whole like super fun story to see come to life, because they're the ones that got me in the sport. But really what really pushed me into the bowling alley was them bowling. My whole family bowled. My sister bowled. My brother bowls. Him and I still go at it for competitions nowadays. But really the community of just getting in and meeting other kids really got me into the sport. And when I found that potential in 2008, and my first ever coach, her name's Atsa Taguchi, in the bowling community, everyone knows her just because she is a legendary face across the whole community. But she really took me under her wing, and she's like, you have talent and I want to really harness that and bring it to the next level. So I think when I started seeing potential because of my parents, in the sense that they got me into the lane, then I knew that I was made for it. And for golf, my dad was a golfer when he was a young kid. And I think that he had a lot of talent. I never really saw it because obviously he stopped when he had me and my brother and my sister. And so after that point, but just seeing his talent, and as much as he can't swing today, but just seeing his passion for the game really got me into the game. And that my brother is a fantastic golfer. So golfing with him and spending quality time with him on the course. And he's also one of my biggest caddies. And so having him on the bag at tournaments is just a family story in both ways that really got me in the sport. And that's going to keep me in the sport now forever.
It's all about that community and that family, really. Everybody coming together. So how is that evolution like, to go from playing golf, bowling, to doing your photography business? And then over the years, you've also got into marketing and helping out the next generation of entrepreneurs. Yeah. So what was that turning point for yourself? You're like, okay, I have this skill, I know how to do photography. How did you pick like marketing? What made you decide to like, okay, this is what I want to get into and teach?
So photography, I had zero idea what I wanted to do coming out of high school. I knew that I wanted to make an impact, and that's like my life purpose, is making an impact wherever I can and making something better than I left it. And so for me, I realized a lot of skills in marketing when I was building my photography business. So social media, email marketing, website design, development, strategy, research, all of the things that you need for marketing to be successful, I learned through my business. And so when I was just finishing my undergrad in the Faculty of Kinesiology Recreation Management at the U of M, I was like, okay, I have a couple of years. Why not go to Asper and just spend some time? Because I was finishing up my golf scholarship. And I took some marketing courses, and I realized then I was hooked of like, hey, I love this marketing idea. And so taking those couple courses, but being on a variety of different committees of marketing roles, social media, it just kind of kept feeding that passion of marketing that I really never knew I had really until 2018, 2019. And when I found that passion, I knew that I wanted to go further with it. So I really just used my undergrad and really pivoted my education to marketing. So I took a bunch of certificates, diplomas, and stuff like that to really pivot my marketing education, because I wanted to spend time in that field, but really seeing it through my business. And my business has been the pivotal changing point of my whole marketing career. Really, where all my marketing experience comes from is from seeing it real life, of with clients, with vendors, building relationships, stuff like that. So that's where my marketing really career began, was through photography, but then also even through just at the Stu Clark Center and all across University of Manitoba really changed my career and really set me up now for even further success going forward. But photography changed everything for my full-time career. I never saw marketing until photography, and I love what I do every day. And it just, both passions feed into each other so nicely. And that even in the sports realm, working with different sports on marketing projects and stuff like that is super fun, because it's kind of like colliding all three of my worlds together. And so as soon as I realized that marketing passion, just seeing people's faces of businesses light up when you give them a marketing strategy or you're helping someone and they're like, oh my gosh, this works. is just so cool. And so I think that's just seeing that my face light up too, of the sense of making a client feel good, a marketing strategy, or seeing a social media post they absolutely love. Like seeing all those things come together is just surreal.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have an idea about marketing and branding. So those are two, like,
Yes.
they
Oh my
think,
God.
oh, I'm doing marketing, I'm trying to get people's attention, but it's like
Yeah.
without a good brand, then people don't really follow you. So break
Yeah.
that down for people who want to start this thing but just don't know where to kind of why are the two so important?
Yeah. I mean, marketing and branding, yeah, definitely totally two different things. And I think they definitely get overlap too much in the sense. And I always say that you need a strong brand in order to succeed in whatever you're doing, but that also comes with a strong marketing strategy to succeed in becoming a strong brand. So they do come together a lot. And I think in any brand that I'm building, so even like a personal brand, I would say you need to market yourself and really showcase your values, your why, and who you are as a person to really make up your brand and what you do. So for me, for photography, why do I do photography? Why do I serve clients? How do I serve clients? What's my passion? And what do I do outside of photography that helps drive what I do? That's really the soul of my brand, and really then using my marketing to elevate that. So I think they really go inside together, but building a brand takes a long time. And I think it's just really picking and choosing what you want to be a part of your brand and being okay with certain things being left out and certain things being a part of it. And really knowing your target audience. That's the biggest one I say to anyone starting a marketing business or anything marketing related and building a brand is knowing your target audience, niching down and being okay to niche down, because I think we sometimes get scared when we leave some of the market out there. We're like, oh no, like we don't want to include that. People's like, no, you're okay to leave some people on the table because you want to niche down and really understand who you're serving. And so when I know that in any marketing strategy I'm working on, the brand is set, everything marketing I do still feeds into that brand. So branding is kind of like a long form type of content and a type of strategy where you're planning for years and years and it's building over time, whereas marketing just continues to feed into that. So really understanding who you're serving, what that marketing strategy looks like, and how that then feeds into your brand, and making sure they align, because if they don't align, then that's going to be a scary one.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest thing, is making sure they align.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on strategy? Because I think recently I realized, like, you can have all the strategy in the world,
Yeah.
but if you don't execute,
Yeah.
then it just becomes overwhelming, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause there's so many platforms nowadays. You got
100%.
LinkedIn, Instagram. So when you're working with the youth and you're trying to give them that roadmap and that
Yeah.
plan, especially for an entrepreneur and a business owner, like, is it okay, we're gonna like build out, your website, your SEO, or is that more of like seeing people can gain traffic? Like, because at the end of the day, if you have a strong brand, people have to be able to buy, right? And
Right.
so, like, how do you get what's like the process like? Because
Yeah.
without a good strategy and like a good call to action, it becomes
Kinda
more of like
hooks.
you're just posting content, which is
Yeah.
good to document the process.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, like, storytelling is a key portion or a key part in anything that you're doing. But I think that really knowing first who's your target audience and what are you trying to serve them. So what is your business and what is the goal that you want your target market to satisfy? So what is their need? What are they trying to have, and what do you want them to have that you will bring to the table? So what is that need would be the first thing I always identify in a marketing strategy, and how do I fit that need? And if I don't, then that's okay. We have to pivot then of what that target market is. And then identifying those key messages that go into that marketing strategy that really feed into, okay, what does my target market need to hear? What is the need that I'm satisfying for them that needs to be shown in that key message when you are portraying that? So I like to keep it like 3 to 5 key messages, because it really shapes a nice tight marketing strategy. And then at that point, moving into, okay, tactics. So where does my target market live? What platforms are they on? So often, like, depending on the age group that you're targeting, a lot of the times I find that LinkedIn and Instagram is where a lot of people hang out nowadays, but there still is TikTok, Threads, Facebook, although I always mention Facebook, or people are like, I'm never on Facebook. And so Facebook's still around, but depending on their tactics, that's just social media. Are they on email? What's your customer journey like on your website? And really outlining all of your tactics for your target market of where they're coming in or where you want them to come in, and then building those out, which I think obviously takes the most time. But a lot of the time in every marketing strategy that I talk to when it comes to entrepreneurs or small businesses, it's really understanding your target market and doing the research to understand what they need and how you can satisfy that need. Because if you don't spend your time there enough, then you really miss that. And I think using AI is great for that, but also making sure you're talking to the human themselves of, hey, what is like going out to talking to your market, which as marketers sometimes is scary because we always like to maybe sit at the office and do what we do. But going to our market and being like, hey, I want to like learn more about why you like XYZ, or what drives you to buy this product, and really understanding that really then helps out build your marketing strategy.
Yeah. I think one thing I realized about like just marketing, I've been doing social media for 3 years now.
Yeah.
I think the most one people sleep on is YouTube. The reason being is because if you can spend, let's say 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 hours with someone, eventually they're going to buy from you, right? I think a lot of time people like do Instagram, they do like LinkedIn and do like short form content.
Yeah.
But it's so like 1 minute. So like you might see it and you won't really skip next one, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I think YouTube is and I think the
Huge.
metrics that I look at is like watch time. So depending on how many hours someone watches your video, right, that really converts them. So I've got a couple of videos where they've got like 3K, 4K, and I'm like, so on YouTube, that's a lot because you get 4 or 5K on Instagram that doesn't really convert that well. So I've kind of seen the different platforms, and I think the more time you spend with someone, I think there's a high probability of them kind of converting and really buying from you. So I think that's one I'm actually really working on these days. I'm like, how do I put myself out there with someone? Because if someone spends 5, 10 minutes, that's already like 20, 30 short form content.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are you telling like people nowadays, especially with the content and where it's kind of going? It's like, what's like you said, Instagram or LinkedIn. How would you be able to like share that when you're working with businesses and stuff? Like,
yeah, I would say that. I mean, YouTube, I would say to turn on that point is huge. I think YouTube is making a change that I personally haven't seen for years. And I was talking to one of my colleagues at work actually, and YouTube is like the first platform that people are finding content on. I know my husband, he can't stand social media, but he is on YouTube every single day, watching shorts, and that's his that's our cable is YouTube. So I think that really utilizing YouTube and just using your content, I'm a big repurpose person of your content because we're all busy people. We all have different jobs and different passions. And so for me, I try and repurpose my content through Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'm getting on YouTube slowly but surely, but I think that really utilizing it across all those platforms brings people to find you in different ways. So whether that be you're on Instagram, you're on LinkedIn, you're on YouTube, but I think just really having that diversity of content is so helpful nowadays, which what I recommend to founders too is that don't try and put yourself everywhere, but you definitely want to be on as many platforms strategically that make sense for your business as much as you can, because that's how people can find you.
Yeah, sometimes you can get overwhelmed. So just anyone who wants to do social media, right? There's so many platforms out there. Sometimes we try to manage different platforms. That's why you need some type of system, CRM. So work on getting some budgeting. Because I think once you start doing 2 or 3 or 4 platforms, now it's like, how do you manage these kind of, I know you're close friends with Maddie as well too. I know Maddie talks a lot about that.
Maddie and the whole Mad team. I mean, I'll do a self-plug, but I mean, if you need anyone, I know a good team. But I would say that too, even as an individual person who does all of their own content, that it's still, you can have a team do that, but also just coming back to knowing the key message that you want to portray and all that content that you're doing. So for me, in photography, it's my why. It's why I'm doing something. It's what does my client looking for when they come to hire me. So really working with a team is huge. And I often tell a lot of small businesses who are taking that leap in their marketing, they're like, oh, I just can't do it personally. I'm like, hire a team. Hire a team, whether it be 2 people, 3 people, full agency, whatever that is so important, because then they could take you to the next level that you just can't do by yourself. But no, I mean, Maddie and Matt, the whole team there is great, but I'm a little biased on the team there, knowing how close I am with them.
But I think mindset is so important though, especially as entrepreneurs, like working at Stu Clark. Why is people be like, oh, I don't want to spend money on marketing. Oh, I don't think it's not really going to give me an ROI. I mean, I can imagine even when people are working with agencies, they're like, they have limiting beliefs. I don't want to do it because I don't see the ROI. What would you tell people like that? Because there's so many individuals who think that way. Yeah. And that's why sometimes when people are doing marketing, they end up doing it themselves and they get burnt out and they stop. They stop being consistent, right? It's
the biggest thing nowadays I tell people when they're questioning marketing, and it's kind of funny because I've actually had one of our students come up. We were having a barbecue last summer and he was like, I don't want to do marketing. I was like, do you want to take your business to the next level, or do you want people to see your business? He's like, well, yeah. I was like, then you have to market yourself. So I think marketing nowadays is a no-brainer. That could be as small as a couple social media posts, going to networking events, whatever that email list. It could be super small, or it could be, again, a full agency worth of content and different strategies depending on what you're targeting. But I think marketing is needed no matter what you're doing. And the biggest thing, and no matter what kind of marketing you're doing, is being consistent and still showing up as a human, even with AI and everything out there, still putting the human first. Because there's still always a human behind that screen who you are talking to, who is absorbing that content, and you want to make sure that still aligns with what they're seeing and making sure that still feels valuable to them. Because in everything I do in my marketing, but even just as a marketing professional, is really making sure that the content is valuable. Someone's getting something from that content, whether it be they know my why about photography, they know about posing a client and how I pose a client, or they know the importance of a marketing strategy. Really, what is valuable in that content? What is the guts I want them to hear, and making sure that comes across. Because I think sometimes that's forgotten about in marketing a little bit, is that there's always a human behind that screen, and you want them to feel something, you want them to feel connected, and you want them to like and share your content, but still making sure there's a value behind it, because that's what people really click on.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, as you start to post content, you might get to 100, 205. You be like, oh, are people still watching? But it's like going back to the why. Like, why did you actually start doing this? As long as you kind of have that sense of it, like, it kind of keeps you going, and I mean, it gives you that mindset. So Marissa, tell me, because you've done at Stu Clark University, you've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
When you're seeing founders who are coming up and they have this business idea and they want to pitch it, what's that unique proposition that you see with businesses that are like, taking home and the big prize?
Yeah.
What are some founder insights that you see from someone that's like, oh, like this guy has a good product, or this guy has a good business plan that he's going to do something well?
I mean, I would defer to my colleague Ben Isakoff on this one, actually. But I mean, I would say that with Ben sends some students my way the odd time, because he will get into a conversation with them that goes into the marketing direction, and he kind of at that point calls me the marketing guru, and he's like, hey, go to Marissa, she'll help you out. So the biggest thing I tell founders or entrepreneurs and student entrepreneurs that come in is just making sure your solution is clear, but making sure everyone understands the problem that you are solving. So what is the value? What is the problem you're solving? And making sure that is so clear in any pitch or anything you're communicating, because if they don't know that, then they don't know your business. So if that solution is clear and the problem that you're solving is clear, then I can now think of market validation, scalability, financial projections, all these other things that go into your pitch or your business plan. But if I don't understand your business in first, and usually in 2 minutes, honestly, like I usually give a student about 2 or 3 minutes to really pitch their business to me when we're talking about their business. If I don't understand, I'll ask some questions, but I really want to understand your business in that short amount of time. And so for anything marketing related, making sure that's clear across all your marketing platforms is, what do you do? What is your business? Who are you serving? And how are you solving people's needs? And so if that's not clear, then people are going to get lost. And so for me, a lot of what I do too is making sure the customer journey is clear. When someone's trying to find your business online, whether they find it through Google, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and they come to your website or they come to a platform, making sure that's so clear and so easy to reach you that they have no questions. And if they do have questions, they can contact you. Just the other day, I was on a variety of different websites for house selling and just different house projects, and trying to find what I needed on Google through different websites took me forever, just because the customer journey wasn't always clear on those websites. So the biggest thing is working with students is, again, what is that problem? What is that solution? Why do people need this? Why do people care? And why should I care? If I'm investing into a business, why should I care to solve this problem? And so coming up at the Stu Clark Center, we have our Stu Clark New Venture Championships at the end of April. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of big name students come in from across North America to pitch those businesses, which will be super fun. I mean, Ben's going to be super excited because he gets to see all those students, but really seeing those problems and those solutions come to life.
Yeah. So keeping it simple and then working backwards to know like that customer journey instead of like, I'm just going to put this out and I'm just going to dream this thing is going to work.
Yeah. Hope is not a strategy. I always say that too, which is kind of funny, but I mean, it's true. Hope is not a strategy, and that putting a strategy on paper takes time, definitely takes time. It takes a lot of time, actually. I would say that takes months and sometimes even a year, depending on what kind of strategy you're working on. But when you have that strategy and you're able to lay that out, and I love to lay it on an Excel sheet, and I can execute the steps and know what execution is needed, then the actionable steps are easier to make. Because sometimes, like you said, you're going to get lost of what action needs to be taken. You get scared, or you're like imposter syndrome and you're like, oh, what do I do? Like, I don't even know where to start. It's like, if I know where to start because I see the plan, then it's easier to start. And I think that's the big thing at the Stu Clark Center is we laid out that marketing strategy a year and a half ago, and it's really helped us to grow in a way that we have always wanted to grow, but we never really saw that growth, I think, before I came onto the team. And when we've now grown that organization and have had 250 plus students come and see Ben Isaacoff and the Startup Coach program, it's just that's really the result of a solid marketing strategy, but really the work of showing value to students.
And why is systems and procedures so important in that? Because that's like you have a system that's repeatable. You could just map this thing out for 5 months, work on it, and then put it out, and then it could be repeatable. I'm guessing that's how you kind of...
Exactly. Yeah. So I schedule all of our content through like one social media like platform, emails, and through MailChimp. And I just have a whole content calendar laid out every single month. And that whole month, I'm just executing that and making sure everything's executed at the right time. And that way I can also take time to think about strategy, because if the content is planned and I'm staying on top of trends and all those things, I actually will have capacity for strategy and for what do we need to improve, what's working, what's not, why is this working, why is this not working, and what do students want to see? Because what students want to see and what your target market wants to see always changes. So really being on top of that, of like, hey, what do they want to see? What do they want to hear? What am I missing? And so having time for that, because everything is scheduled and aligned in that content calendar for the week prior or the month prior, is a game changer. So I think I try to do that for photography. It's a little bit harder because photography is just a little bit more dynamic. But I think for my marketing career and any businesses I work with, that's the approach I like to take.
You realize once you sit down and really just like focus, you know what I mean? I think Rosie talks a lot about that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Focus and clarity, right?
Yes.
Once you really just sit down, you're like map things out. You're like, man, you could, I think he said you could beat 99% of people. It's like, so that's really what it is. Even as an athlete too, it's just like, can you prepare before the game starts? Can you like, you know what I mean? Sure. Like, so I think really those reps really just, they count every single time as you kind of progress over time. But Marissa, tell me, you talked about earlier about community. Why is that so important, especially in Winnipeg? We got so many different kind of communities depending on where you go. I have my Hanny Lounge as well too. You got your SIP session as well too. That I kind of actually attended a couple of your events and connected with Maddie through there. Why is that so important, especially in a world like AI and people trying to sell you stuff online?
I mean, we started SIP sessions almost 2 years ago, actually 2 years ago last week. And we started SIP sessions because we saw people from a variety of industries, take out the marketing, take out entrepreneurship, just a variety of industries wanted to come together and just have a coffee. And we always have friends that we're like, oh, let's go for coffee. Let's go for coffee. And we always get busy, right? And so SIP sessions is about bringing people together for coffee, for a drink, whatever that is, and just having a conversation and having a new topic when we have those different events. And we try to do them monthly, but it's really hard because Maddie's growing mad like a mad person. And so I know I'm growing my business as well really quickly in the midst of everything I do. And so really that community just wants to be built so everyone can come in and have a conversation. And just our next panel is obviously around AI, but just every different kind of topic we can think of that community needs to hear is so important. And at those events too, it's about connecting with people. It's about connecting with people across different industries that you wouldn't have thought of when you're attending different community events. So I know with Hanny Lounge, there's probably a variety of different people there, right? So it's like the same thing of just bringing different experts in the room, and even people who are maybe in university or off the street or first year founders, like any sort of career path, bringing them in and having a conversation. And a lot of cool connections have been made through SIP sessions. And I think the community aspect of it has just been the coolest part of it, because it really shows that anyone can come together and have those conversations, and that it is just the coolest thing to see big names also come into a room and talk on a panel, but see them influence people who have always been wanting to meet those faces, but have always been scared to take that leap of faith to go to that networking event. But we've just tried to create a low barrier event where people can just come in and be themselves and have a coffee.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
So if you don't like, I think sometimes we think in business like we have to have everything figured out in order to build a network, or I don't have a lot of money right now, so what value can I share?
Yeah.
But I think it's Keith Ferrazzi, Never Eat Alone. He talks about this idea of like, you should actually have nothing before you start a network. Like,
100%.
because at the end of the day, if once you have everything, then you want to start building a network, then people would try to be like, oh, try to take from you, right? So I think the idea is like, even you look at a guy like Mike Fadda, for example, he's so successful in his business, he's still able to come on in the community, be able to share, right? Because he kind of seen when he was first starting his business, the evolution of what he had to build. So I think a lot of founders who are like, well, I'm just stuck right now, I don't know where to go. It's like, there's someone out there in your community, literally, like you could just go and ask them questions and maybe reach out on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy that people just don't have the guts to like, I'll reach out to this guy And if you get rejected, cool. You know?
And then you move on. I mean, I was also that person though too. Like I was totally that shy kid in high school at the back of the high school room that didn't want to talk to anyone and was scared to talk to someone. And now I'm on podcasts like these talking about my story. So I think that anyone can do it. It's just a matter of taking that leap of faith. And if you do get rejected, it's a failure, but everyone can learn from failure. Like it's totally okay to fail. And I think nowadays, even still, that a lot of us are scared of failure. I'm scared of failure for sure. Like, but it's a very human thing to be scared of, and that's okay. But not letting that one failure, that one no, destroy you and stop you from what you're doing. Like, if I had gotten my first no or my first client declined, I would have stopped my business 10 years ago. But I just kept on going because I knew I had something. I knew I also loved what I was doing, what I was building. And so community is huge. And I think surrounding yourself with the right people like Mike Fata, like Margot Miller, and so many others in our community that are so big because they're such great storytellers, but they're also so passionate and they also have so many expertise that they are so open, willing to share and go for coffee or have a virtual coffee that you just need to ask for it. And I think that's the biggest thing.
And I think sometimes too, like in order to get a seat at the table, you have to have value. I think sometimes people forget like, I'm not getting response. I'm like, are you bringing value to the table? Like there has to be an exchange of like value. Like when we're doing business, we're exchanging value, right? Someone is paying you this money because they know you're gonna solve their problems, right? So I think sometimes people forget, like they're always like looking to take, but they forget they have to add value. So when people don't know, is like, especially on the community side of it, I think you've done a bunch of events. It's like you put this thing on for free, right? Because you know that people are gonna see the value you're gonna produce. You're gonna bring 100%. On a speaker. They're going to feel the impact. They're going to walk away feeling motivated, inspired. So I think if you can make it, I always say, if you make an impact on one person, you've made an impact on the world, right? And sometimes we kind of forget like, oh, we need to get 10 clients, 20, 50 in order to feel that. But when you go in the community, like, wow, people actually really appreciate this, right? So tell me like your first time, like your first event and how like that kind of went and what was like what did it kind of feel like? Because sometimes I think people don't know is like, when you're behind and you're just watching the events and you're actually doing it, two completely different things.
Totally
right?
two different things. It's so funny that you say that. I remember our first event like as yesterday, actually. It was at a small cafe downtown, and it was like, we had no idea what to expect at our first sip sessions. Maddie and I were like, you know what, let's throw this event on, see what happens. And sure enough, it was a sold out event. And I was on the panel with Maddie, and we were just, I can't remember I think it was about personal branding, our first topic was, which was and still a very prevalent topic. But I was so nervous. Like I was shaking nervous going into that event. And I think seeing everyone show up and just seeing the buzz in the room, quite literally, of people just talking, having coffee, having conversations, and the smiles and the energy really just brought everything so worth it together and just made us want to do more and more and more, which is why we've done so many. I think we're going on our 9th now. And so just seeing that buzz in the room is everything. And for me, in anything I do, if I can make someone smile, if I can make someone feel better about themselves or make a connection or move away from a marketing strategy knowing that they want to now know their next task or next thing to do, or leave a session because they just got the best photos and they want to now have those photos on their walls, like that's why I do what I do. And even in bowling too, like I can medal and we can win championships is great, but traveling the world with the best teammates in the world, like that is what it's about. And so I think it's the same thing for community, is finding your people, harnessing that, and just really utilizing what they have, what they know, and being okay to reach out and taking that leap of faith, like we said earlier, and taking that imposter syndrome and just throwing it behind you and going for it, because you don't want to have regrets in life. And I think that's the biggest thing, is if you can just live your life and keep pushing and pushing and pushing, you're going to find success eventually.
Yeah. Tell me your best networking hack or secret that you do. Because for me, like, I think I've done about 10 events or so, but I think oftentimes people come to events and like they just show up and they'll go home. But I think the idea of like building relationships is so important, and then mastering the follow up. Like, you know, depending on if you have a service or what you're providing, like when I see someone, I see they might be sharing on a panel or they have value. I'm like, this person could be good on a podcast, or this person could be good. Maybe I could connect them with another person. Yeah. So I think the way I look at relationships and like just community is more of like connecting the dots. Like if you're coming here and you don't have a business, or you're a brand new founder, how can I connect you to someone that has something that can help you out in exchange, and maybe you could do something with it. Totally. So for you, how do you kind of like, what was some things that you see when it comes to like that aspect? Maybe it's clients or maybe people you've kind of met over the years.
Yeah, I would say like when it comes to my favorite networking hack, really it's just going up to someone and just asking them, what do you do and why do you love what you do? Because truly they're going to tell you about their job. They're going to tell you about their role. They're going to tell you about their passions. And that's just going to spark a whole conversation. So that's like my favorite networking hack. And then also breaks the ice really well for like a new person who you have no idea who it is you're talking to, but you've maybe seen their face on social media or something like that. And I know Margot Miller has a whole TED Talk on networking too, but I think the biggest thing that I've learned also just from her TED Talk and also hearing her speak is that you can find people on LinkedIn and who is going to a certain event before you even go there. And doing your research and knowing who's going to prompt those questions is a huge one. So I would say from a networking hack, that's the biggest one. And yeah, I would say just knowing and coming in prepared. If you're not prepared, you're prepared to fail. That's what I always say, is that if you are not coming in with your ducks in a row, a plan ahead, that could be a networking event or a business meeting, knowing the value that you bring to the table, but how you can execute that value and what is the goal out of that networking event that you want. So when we're finished SIP sessions and I try and make a couple connections myself, even though I'm running the event with Maddie, is can I make a one good connection to go for coffee with the following week or the next month or just connect with on LinkedIn? And if you can do that from a networking event, you're on the right track.
Yeah, and I think repetition is so important. Like the more you do them, the better you get, and like it just becomes like just natural. I think sometimes we kind of forget that, because I do so many like interviews and meeting people in the community. It's like when you just make that connection, there's this energy, you know, that they say like attracts like. When you kind of see someone, you're like, you see their LinkedIn stuff, you see them in person, like that's who they really are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they're true to themselves and they're very authentic. I think Maddie does that very well. You do that very well as well too. So I think that's very important, because then it's like it's easier to kind of ask those questions and be very open about it.
Yeah, if you can show your life online, the good and the bad and the ugly, I will include there, is that you can really connect with people. And I think for me, like when I go photograph clients, they already know my whole life and what I love and what I am and what I do as a person before they even meet me in a session. And it's actually kind of a good example of this is in the sense that I had a client come to a session and they brought me chai tea latte because they know I love chais. And that just shows of like when you put yourself out there in a client-based business and they know what you like and what you bring to the table, they'll know that when you show up. And I think in photography, that's the goal with my clients, is for them to know everything about me that they need to know of. I'm a wife, photographer, bowler, love cafes, love adventure, will climb a mountain, all this kind of stuff before they even meet me is my goal, because then we can go to Pinawa and hike a little trail for their engagement session or something like that. But really putting yourself out there is the best thing you can do nowadays.
No, 100%. You just got to go for it. Marissa, tell me, how has like marriage and are you also into faith as well too?
A little bit, I would say more like more married, I would say, but I mean, marriage is a whole,
How has that made a difference on you? Like, what's that like to run a business, to be helping entrepreneurs? What's that been like for you? Because I know marriage is not, it's not easy.
It's not easy, no. I mean, we're going to be married 2 years this June, and we're actually going to Scotland for our anniversary, which is pretty crazy and pretty fun. But we also got married on a golf course and we got engaged on a golf course. So we're like, why not go to a golf course for our second anniversary? But yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky with the husband I have. Danny is a absolute gem that I will always brag about, and he brags about me every time when he goes to work, and he always says that, but I don't get enough to brag about him. So everything he does, being in the Canadian military, the military life is real. You are moving. This is our first move coming up. But the thing is that if you can have that person beside you that will serve you and be with you and do everything for you that they can in everything that you're doing, that's the best thing you can ask for. And 10 years ago, before knowing and even meeting Danny 6 years ago, my life has changed so much. And having him in my corner, he is the reason why I can do everything I do, because he is the man holding down the fort, but will support me as my backbone. And like in marriage, is just, it's not every day that you just be like, okay, like, let's just keep on going. Like there's going to be hard days, but I think just communicating, being open, and just really like knowing what your path is as a couple and what you want for each other and how you can work together to do that. And so I'm definitely more the planner than my husband for sure, but I think we sit down every couple months and we're like, okay, what do we want moving forward? And so, yeah, of course, we eventually want to start a family, but we love building our careers and building everything that we're doing. But he is the most positive, compassionate person I've ever met in my entire life. I'm so lucky to have in my corner, but I think marriage is not easy, and it's just a part of life. But if you can have someone in your corner like Danny that can just support you 100% and just know what you want and what you need and will be your backbone, then I mean, I'm the luckiest girl in the world. I tell him that every day, but I will tell him that now formally through a podcast because he doesn't get told that enough. But
They say teamwork make the dream work, right?
it's true. It's true. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
By the way, I'm single, so I'm working on I'm working on aspects. So when I hear you talk about that, that just shows you like the 1 + 1 is 2, right? Like when you have two people kind of communicating,
You're on the same team always.
It kind of compounds. It gives you that
100%.
It gives you that big push to kind of do things. You know what I mean?
100%. And I would say also like he is so talented in leadership and creativity and strategy and in so many different ways that I am sometimes not. And I would say often not. And that we fill in the gaps with each other so well that it's a dream. And so he is definitely the smartest man I know. I tell him that and he doesn't always take credit for it, but he is the smartest man I know. And that for him, just seeing some things that I don't see, even when I'm bowling, like he got into bowling because of me and because of, I'm a golfer, he got into golf because of me. And I think that just shows that he like just who he is as a person, but also our marriage and what we love to do together. And I was never a racket sports person. I'm picking up pickleball. So like you pick up your passions together, but it's just fun to do things together in that sense too, because it brings you together and brings you closer, and it also just keeps things alive and keeps things fun. So
no, that's amazing. So Marissa, what does the future look like for what you're looking to build out now? Like what is the next couple of years?
Yeah, so Marissa Naylor Photography is going to be bigger going forward. So I'm currently in the process of launching my associates program, which is going to be a team of photographers who help serve across Manitoba. And we are moving to a new province, but I will not release the actual province yet. I'll say that for a little tidbit of excitement on social media, but we're moving for a Canadian military posting. And so my husband's taking an extremely fun and ambitious job to help propel his career. And so we're taking that move for him, but also because I want to expand my business into Ontario and I really want to shoot across Canada. So the next job or next part is that associates program that's being launched very soon. And then now serving across Canada, Ontario, BC, and just everywhere that I can. And yeah, with bowling is so big in Ontario, and that we are so excited to propel that because a lot of my teammates are actually in Ontario for Team Canada. And so Manitoba is so small, but so big. And I think that spreading our wings into a new place is going to be super fun. So we're taking on that next chapter pretty soon. But I think after that, just seeing where the wind takes us. And I know from a marketing standpoint, I'm excited for what's ahead. There's a lot of different opportunities on the table, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think change is like, it's inevitable. Like I think we all have to like go through life and gotta change, whether it's your habits, whether it's, relationships. So for you to make that next jump, now it's like, okay, I gotta go for something new and see what happens.
Talk about imposter syndrome too. Like I've been waiting to make this jump for a couple of years now. And when we had gotten the news, I was like, okay, like now it's now or never, as Justin Bieber would say back in his old songs. But I mean, it's really now or never. And I know a couple months ago, I looked at my husband and I was like, hey, like we're going to do this. If we're going to do this, I'm going to make the jump. And so, yeah, I'm super excited to make the jump. I'm super excited to announce everything soon. And it's almost like a relief in a sense, because talk about taking action. It's now the time to take action. So
yeah, sometimes you just got to go for it. So Marissa, tell me, if you had to go back, to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell Marissa? Because now, say you're moving, you did golf, bowling, entrepreneurship. If you had to go back to your older self, what would you tell Marissa when you were just first starting? Introvert, didn't really have as much. What would you tell her?
Yeah, I would tell her just to take the leap and go for it, because I think that you don't want to have regrets in life. And being that shy, small kid in the middle of the classroom at the back, I wouldn't have taken the leap if I didn't get those 2 weddings in 2015 and have taken the leap of showcasing creativity and making people feel good and having that passion. So really go for it. Don't be afraid of it. And the worst thing that you do is fail. And if you can learn from failure, then nothing will stand in your way for that.
And how do you gain the confidence to be able to like speak, or to be able to like, because I'm guessing that's over time. How do you? Yeah. Because you're natural. I can kind of see it. You come up to people and you talk. And because that takes time to really work on that.
Totally. I think it's just putting yourself out there. Truly, like our first Step Sessions event was my first ever event on a stage, and it was actually just 4 chairs in a line, but it was my stage that I took for the first time ever, and that was the first time I ever really shared just what I do as a person. And just a couple weeks ago, I took the stage to share my photography story for the first time. So I think just putting yourself out there, knowing you are going to screw up, that's okay, because I know I screw up all the time, but taking that leap and doing it and being okay to share your story because people need to hear it. and people want to hear it. And there's so many platforms to share it that if you can just share your story and be okay with that and be okay with people accepting your story or not accepting your story, but just showcasing it, people are going to love hearing your story. And I know I've gotten a lot of compliments about my story, which I've not honestly expected because I'm just starting to share it more and more. But I think that your story could definitely impact someone. It's just taking the leap to actually share it.
Yeah, 100%. I believe like courage come before confidence. Like if you have the courage to like put yourself out there to talk about, your losses, because I think the wins don't really define you as much. Like, so when I told you earlier, like growing up in the inner city, like seeing people who I've came to Canada with like get into gangs and violence. And so it kind of, it shows you a lot, like you can come from nothing and then you could build your way up. But I think it's the courage to really do it. Because at the end of the day, if you're building a business, you're serving people, right? And people want to see like who you are and what you do. Because I think, people don't buy products, they buy trust. So I think the trust factor is so important. Yeah. And I think if you could do that, depending on where you go, you can be in any room. People be like, wow, you're actually good at this. You're confident. So now when people see me, I'll be on stage. Like, I think I did a speaking gig where I spoke to like 100 people. I'm like, and people were like, I was scared to actually do that. But then when I went up and I started talking, I'm like, I can actually do this. Like, it gives you the confidence. Like, until you do it, you actually don't know you have the confidence to do it.
Fake it till you make it is what I always say, like, quite truly. Like, I remember actually coming back from that event a couple weeks ago and all my like Team Canada friends were there like, oh, how'd it go? I was like, guys, like, I think I just made a fool of myself. But like, truly, like, you never know who you're talking to. And like, honestly, fake it till you make it. I think that was one of the first pieces of advice I actually ever got when I started my business was fake it till you make it. And really, it's still applicable today. If you don't have that $10,000 camera gear to get started, you can still start with a $300 Canon Rebel T5 camera and just make people feel good and create a customer experience everyone wants. You can be successful.
Yeah, 100%. You got to go for it. Marissa, where can our audience find you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, but Instagram and LinkedIn are my two big ones. YouTube coming soon. I know we talked about that, but not yet. But yeah, so Marissa.Naylor is my personal Instagram. It's where you'll see a lot of life behind the lens. Me and my husband traveling, doing all our fun stuff. And then Marissa Naylor Photography, of course, on Instagram is where everything happens. So
awesome. Okay. No, it's a pleasure. Thank you for jumping on the show. And she kept reaching out. She's persistent, folks. And sometimes that's life. Like if you want something, you got to be persistent because if you're not going to get, nobody's going to give you something, right?
It's true.
So there's a lot of opportunities out there, but as long as you put yourself in those positions and you're going to take them. So Marissa, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you. You got a bright future ahead. I can already see it. And if you need anything with photography and weddings, I think she's going to be making some moves, but I think, I'll be available. It's going to serve way more clients. So this is the Ride Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Hanny Mahari. Stay tuned for the next episode, and we're out.
Awesome.